Astlibra Revision is one of those games that, quite frankly, kind of defies logic, being over 14 years in development and is finally out. And this to action RPGs is what La Mulana is to Metroidvanias. Our story is that we play as, well, Hiro, who as a child, his childhood friend gets kidnapped by demons. He is left without a memory and wanders the wilderness for 8 years until his ginormous anime adventure eventually begins. And trust me, no one here, I think, will have any idea how this whole story ends up. But in order to save the world as we know it, he is going to have to beat up lots and lots of enemies and go through a variety of chapters. The general progress of Astlibra is that each chapter is self-contained with its own story beats, enemies, biomes, and so on. Once you start a chapter, you are not allowed to leave it until you finish it. Where this game kind of goes with its gameplay is basically all the action RPG. You have a huge variety of gear, with every weapon and armor and shield piece giving you a reward for crafting and using it. You can unlock what's called Charon skills that can be activated using magic crystals. These skills will change and modify your properties, including giving you some very crazy abilities like being able to double or triple jump, treasure detection, and much more. When you kill enemies, they drop colored force that you can apply to a perk tree that kind of would make Path of Exile blush in terms of how big it is. You can craft items, and there is a huge variety of puzzles, boss fights, and a lot more. Not only that, but the music of this game certainly goes all over the place, and when it hits hard, it hits very hard, with some very fantastic soundtracks for some of the later areas. Now, this is as pure of a combination of action RPG as one can get, with enemies throwing screen-wide bullets sometimes at you, while you attempt to dodge, block, or parry them however you see fit. And this is just one of those games that it really does scream like the perfect game for me. A very reflex-driven design with multitudes of systems and mechanics designed to supplement and enhance those elements. There are multiple difficulties. The footage you're seeing is being played on Hell difficulty, which is the second highest. And trust me, for your own sanity, I would not play on Hell or higher in this game. But this is a title that 1,000,000,000% knows what it wants to be, and it achieves that goal. But with that said, it comes with some major caveats when it comes to playtesting and just the general challenge and pain points that go with it. And I want to talk about that next. But before we get there, if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. At the start of this video, I said that Astlibra Revision in many ways is like La Mulana. One of them is that this is a game that it's really designed around a specific audience and doesn't really do anything to kind of onboard or bring new players in. Even though there are multiple difficulty settings, there are definitely some pain points and questionable decisions with some of the areas that lead to some frustration. Now, this game is very long, and there is a lot to it. Again, with over 14 years in development, this game just keeps going on and on and on. The footage you're seeing is taken from the final chapter, which introduces brand new mechanics, enemy types, and a whole new level of challenge that even leads to a roguelike mode for the game's final dungeon. There's an arena for additional combat, more rewards than you can just fathom for a game like this. So where are the issues? First off, This is one of those games that if you're only interested in playing it at kind of like the most basic level, just rushing through it, you are not going to have a good time. And the reason why is that there's a lot of stuff that is borderline required or will make your life ridiculously easier to play this game that is hidden. All those skills I mentioned in the last part, special treasure chests you can find, getting the various builds you want, will greatly reduce the difficulty and some of the major pain points this game has. There are a few chapters in particular that the difficulty spikes, including the volcano boss fight I'm going to show here, but this is after I kind of broke the game. And also chapter, I believe it's 7, when you actually lose some of your abilities. And even though, again, that you're watching this on the second highest difficulty, regardless of the difficulty that you go on, it does not erase some of these annoying pain points and kind of some of the technical issues that I ran into with this game. One that's kind of hard to see in the footage here is that enemies have a very weird thing when it comes to hitboxes. Your hitbox around the character there does not actually scale or is one-to-one to the character model. So there are cases where it looks like the attack does not connect, and yet you are still hit by that attack. And if you're playing on the higher difficulties, that can sometimes be a one-shot if you're not careful. Another issue with the hitboxes is that there were a lot of situations where an enemy would either spawn bullets or its attack would kind of spawn like an actual graphical effect, but the actual hitbox for that attack appears first. So there are times where you will get hit by just thin air around the enemy. And this can make doing stuff like the perfect parrying or just parrying attacks very difficult. Now, as you get later into the game and more range enemies are introduced, yet another design issue rears its ugly head. Enemies can shoot projectiles at you from off-screen, and there are no tells for when those shots are coming. There are several boss and mini-boss fights where you can be just swarmed by bullets before you can even recognize that they're coming at you. In one case, I was killed by a death laser from all the way across from the battle arena before I even knew that the laser was coming at me. It came so fast. And again, these are elements that do not go away based on your difficulty. And I did have to kind of figure out a game-breaking strategy using some of the skills in order to beat the game on hell. And theoretically, I think I could have beaten this game on impossible difficulty, although it would probably drive me even more insane to do so. So, this is definitely a me kind of game, as I said. I love this one, but it still has a lot of caveats in terms of its pacing and its difficulty. I'm not a fan of the fact that you're locked into each chapter, especially because gear drops and the various recipes for them are biome locked. So if you miss something very important, let's say in chapter 4, and you're now on chapter 5, you can't leave and go back to get it. And it feels like such an unnecessary limitation, especially given the plot of this game, which again, it certainly goes places for sure. So with everything said, Astlibra Revision is a fantastic game for action RPG fans. This is the kind of game that you will either load it up, play for like 5 to 6 minutes, and then just leave, or you are going to sit through, go through every chapter, get every piece of gear, go for every ending, and trust me, there are a lot of endings to this game, and see it through all the way to its finish. I really hope it won't take 14 to 15 years to get a sequel to this one, and if you fall in love with this game at the beginning, then you are going to have a fantastic title to challenge and push your way through from beginning to end. So with that said, I would like to thank the developer for giving me a press key for this one, because I certainly played through it. And If you'd like to submit a game for me to look at, to review, or showcase, please get in touch. Check out our Discord and Patreon, and do all that liking, subscribing, and commenting. Come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.